But for the most part, the interior modules can be adapted. Like, for instance, I have a customer who wants to have the sink in the middle with a window above it. So something like that is relatively simple to incorporate. Whereas if someone wanted the bathroom on the opposite end of the house, that would not be as easy.
Welcome to the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast, the show where you learn how to plan, build, and live the tiny lifestyle. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and this is episode 224 with Arya Mazanek from Wilderwise Tiny Homes. I've been seeing a lot of buzz about this company, Wilderwise, so I decided to invite one of the founders, Arya Mazanek, on for an interview. Wilderwise is taking a custom approach to just about every aspect of their tiny home builds, from the custom aluminum trailer that doubles as the floor foundation to the aluminum and SIP frame. What really sets these tiny homes apart is the fact that they expand to have a full height second floor once they are parked in place. In this interview, I'll ask Arya how the homes are built, how the second floor expansion works, and what makes them modular. Stick around for this interesting interview with Arya Mazanek. Let's face it, most tiny house dwellers want their tiny homes to be small, but not uncomfortable. That means reliable, unlimited hot water. Precision Temp's propane-fired hot water heaters reliably provide unlimited hot water, and they're specifically designed with tiny homes in mind. In fact, the NSP 550 model was installed in my own tiny home, and the reason I chose it was because it did not require a large hole in the side of my home like other RV hot water heaters. Instead, it mounts discreetly through the floor of the tiny house and works quietly and reliably. Right now, Precision Temp is offering $50 off any unit plus free shipping when you use the coupon code THLP. So head over to precisiontemp.com and use the coupon code THLP at checkout. All right, I am here with Arya Mazanek. From a very young age, Arya knew that whatever career she chose to follow, her mission was to help people and the planet. After graduating college, she fundraised for environmental organizations and then worked in solar sales. It was at her solar sales job that she met her co-founder, a senior aerospace design engineer. He had created the concept of a 2-story, lightweight, modular, off-grid tiny home that could be taken anywhere. He had the dream of disrupting the housing and construction markets and changing the world for the better. Arya was immediately inspired by his vision, seeing that this path was the perfect fit for what she wanted in her career. And Arya Mazanek of Wilderwise, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ethan. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So I kind of remember seeing like Zach Giffen organization build a pop-up tiny house at one of the festivals, but it didn't look that stable. It didn't look like it would work that well. And so I was really excited when I saw the concept and see that you're actually building them, to have you on the show. So let's just start with, can you kind of describe the house or what is special about the house?
Yeah. So one of the big features, as you've already mentioned, is the 2-story functionality. I actually talked to Zach Giffen about this. I believe it was earlier this year, last year, and he was really excited by what we were doing. It's something that is unlike any other 2-story tiny house that's been created. A big difference is that our goal is to have them kind of in production and to be producing them for multiple customers. It's not just a one-off where, someone parks it and then leaves it up.
Yep.
And it's just a simple request by a single customer. We know of a lot of people that are looking for something outside of like the traditional loft concept and are looking for the ability to move the home themselves. So what we've done is created a system that is very user-friendly. So it only takes one person to operate. We use all industrial components in the lifting system. And that makes it possible to lift and lower regularly if need be, and to do it yourself. So it's designed to be very seamless and simple to use and to be in higher production and to kind of, we're just promoting kind of an innovative new way of going about tiny homes. I know that tiny homes themselves are already an alternative living solution, and ours kind of takes that to the next degree where, we are including all this new technology that can help people that are, more tech focused and kind of keeping in line with like kind of a tech focused changing world. We want to be able to appeal to those customers.
Nice.
Another of the big things is that we use an aluminum frame, and so it keeps the weight down quite a lot. So we have about 300 square feet on only a 21-foot trailer, and loaded as is about 9,000 pounds. So we can tow it with an F-250. My partner and I have traveled already over 4,000 miles with it. So we really are putting it to the test and showing people what's possible with this kind of lifestyle.
That's awesome. And so the frame is aluminum, and then it looks like, just from looking at your website, are the panels, are they SIPs?
They are our version of a SIP panel. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have an aluminum framing, and we use a grid on the inside, and the insulation is part of the structure. And what's really cool is they are modular. So they're designed to be able to be taken off and put back on if someone needs to assemble on site because they can't access their backyard because of a narrow access road. We can actually bring all of the modular building panels and the interior modules into the site through a standard 5-foot easement, and then assemble on site if that's what the customer requires.
Cool. So it's like it's almost a hybrid SIP, because there wouldn't really be a frame with a SIP build.
Right. Yeah.
Really
they're not a traditional SIP.
Yeah.
We have our own like custom design that's, has a certain set of features like what I mentioned.
Awesome. And, not asking you to give away any of the secret sauce, because I'm sure this was the hardest thing to figure out, but can you talk about how that kind of gap, or that junction between the top and the main part of the house, stays dry and stays insulated?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing is, if for it to stay dry, that's a simpler part because the gap is not exposed, to the sky where rain would come from. So even when we don't have the seal closed and it's rained, we haven't had an issue with water getting in.
Yep.
But we have designed our own custom seal. I can give it in simplest terms, which is one part of the seal is attached to the ledge on the lower wall, and then the other part of the seal is on a hinge. So when the roof is moving up and down, you pull back that second part, which is on a hinge. And when it's in position, the seal gets pushed back into place. It's a rubber foam seal, and it creates a very tight pressure against that outer wall. And that keeps out moisture and air. And we also are including an expandable netting, which is attached to both the upper wall and lower wall. So even if the seal is lifted, because you're lifting or lowering, that prevents any bugs or particulates from getting into the home.
Cool. How long does it take to raise and lower?
About 90 seconds. So pretty quick. Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's motorized, right? You're not like cranking on something?
No cranking. No, it's an electric actuator.
Yeah.
All of our future builds will be a 12-volt actuator, so you can actually power it with the use of just a battery, so you don't have to be plugged into the grid to lift and lower the roof. We also use a series of gas springs that keep everything balanced as it's going up and down, as well as a rail system, which keeps everything smooth. And so before that 90 seconds happens, one of the big steps that has to occur beforehand is moving all of the standalone gray cabinets that we have as part of the structure. So simply enough, we have upper cabinets, which are attached to the ceiling, and then their lower cabinets are standalone. So they're not actually attached to anything. So when we want to lower the roof, the lower cabinets get pulled out of place. You pick them up, put them on the ground, on the sides of the bed, and in the middle of the kind of the lounge office space. Everything fits really well, kind of Tetrised into the different spaces. And once the spaces on the sides are cleared, then the roof and the upper cabinets can come down in their place. So that takes probably another 15 minutes or so. But in general, it's a pretty simple process getting everything kind of set up for travel.
Okay, so you move some things around, and then you lower the roof.
Yeah.
And then does anything? What's the height of the house? In both configurations.
Yeah, so it's 17 feet tall when the roof is lifted, and then it's 13 and a half feet tall when it's lowered. We've also incorporated a limiter into the actuator in case there are height restrictions in certain areas. So there's certain cities in California that have a 16-foot height restriction. So we'll have a limiter in place so that you can be within the height restrictions.
Got it.
And on the inside, you have on average 6.5 feet of headroom on the upper level.
Okay, so tall enough for somebody who's fairly tall to stand up in the loft. I guess you don't even have to call it a loft. It's
actually
an upstairs.
Not a loft. Yes, it is considered a full second story.
Yeah.
If it's 6.5 feet or more, it is technically considered a second story and not a loft. It also contributes to the square footage. So we have more than double the square footage on a much smaller footprint, which is one of our big goals in maximizing land space that it's available, allowing people to park in tighter spots or in smaller backyards and really maximizing the real estate so that it can be used and lived in and people can have, their space for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. I mean, so are the windows in the upstairs on the part that slides up and down, or are they on the bottom? And what do you refer to the top and bottom piece as? Because I feel like I'm not saying the right thing.
I would call it like the roof module or the upper walls.
Okay.
And then the lower walls would be kind of what's static and what's actually, secured to the trailer. The windows are on the upper roof module. You can see one of the windows behind me.
Okay.
And the way it's designed, it doesn't come in contact with it when the roof is moving up and down.
Cool.
But we also don't have any electrical components in the roof. So we have this kind of nice ambient string lighting that goes around the edges. Actually has a nice effect and also has a functional purpose too.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing all the power outlets are in the lower module, which are probably at a good height for outlets in the upstairs.
Yeah. It's like a standard height that you would find for just residential outlets. And one of the things that we've done to support the modularity of everything is all of the wiring is on the outside of the walls.
Okay. Covered
by some trim. And so that way, if it needed to be taken apart to be assembled on site, all of the wiring is not affected and you don't have to cut open the wall. So one of the design considerations.
Nice. So when you say on the outside, you mean like surface mounted on the inside of the living space?
Yes, the innermost wall. So it's not contained with behind like, the drywall or
Got it. Okay, cool. So you mentioned interior modules. Can you talk about like what modules there are and like how much customization, when somebody orders one of these homes, they can say like, I want, what options are there in terms of what modules you pick?
Yeah, sure. So the modules are like the kitchen module where the stovetop and oven is. And then there's a staircase module, which has the fridge and the washer dryer, the bathroom module as well. So for our first set of customers, we are kind of keeping them mostly standard. The cabinetry can be updated, like if you want closed cabinets, open cabinets, you want a window instead, things like that can be updated. But the general like floor plan is staying the same because that's helping us to get into full production and have all of our systems in place. But for the most part, we take customer customization requests kind of case by case. Certain things we're integrating as standard options. And then I have some customers who have, a long list of things that they want. And we do our best to include those as long as it doesn't disrupt the kind of the engineering and the practical functionality of the home and all of the technology that it has. But for the most part, the interior modules can be adapted. Like, for instance, I have a customer who wants to have the sink in the middle with a window above it. So something like that is relatively simple to incorporate. Whereas if someone wanted the bathroom on the opposite end of the house, that would not be as easy.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like it might not be quite as easy to do.
Yeah.
We were talking about the panels before. Do you know what the like approximate R value and insulation is of the house? Yeah,
so overall it's about R24. I believe the ceiling is more than R30. The walls being R27. I think the trailer has the least amount. I think it's R21. So it averages out to about R24 overall, which is great for moderate temperatures. And then I have, for instance, some potential customers in Colorado who are looking for like a winterized model. And so that's something that we're looking at doing with like a steeper pitched roof and additional thicker insulation in the wall.
Thicker insulation in the walls. Yeah. And with that, well, I'm not an engineer, but I'm like imagining, oh my God, this like whole thing needs to be re-engineered for that.
There's definitely some additional engineering work that will go into it. I have 4 engineers on my team, so they're always hard at work making sure that everything works together. And I have gotten much more involved in the engineering process than I expected, because I'm working with so many engineers, and I've discovered how changing one little thing affects everything else to a degree. And so there's always design decisions that come into play with like, oh, we want to make the staircase extend a bit further in both directions. We want the staircase to be less steep. Okay, well then how does this affect where the appliances go? How does this affect the floor space and what bed size can fit? How does this affect the opening where as you're walking in, and how does that affect where, the bed and the cabinets are? So there's all these variables. And so one thing we've learned is to, set certain expectations, and also, be willing to make certain little sacrifices and decide what the priority is for certain design decisions, and where like small sacrifices can be made. And it's a big part of kind of the redesign and engineering process, with both improving the product as well as incorporating, customers' requests and what they're looking for.
Yeah. I asked John and Finn Kernahan of United Tiny House Association what they love about their precision temp hot water heaters. And here's what they told me.
Hey, Ethan, this is John and Finn Kernahan with United Tiny House Association.
We organize Tiny House Festival.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
First and foremost.
We have a total of 3 precision temp on-demand hot water heaters. The thing we really like about these, and folks know this, I think they picked this up on Finn and I, if we don't like something, you'll never hear us talk about it. So the 2 things we noticed that we noticed and experienced immediately, they took painstaking effort to make sure that it was done right and installed. And so that was pretty cool right there. The other thing is the continuous on-demand hot water that just ran forever without any fluctuations or anything. I can't imagine an application, especially in our environment and our lifestyle of being the nomad, transportable, mobile, tiny lifestyle, where one of these units aren't good to use.
In terms of what comes with the house, it looks like it's more finished out than, your typical tiny house might be. Like, It looks like the toilet and the solar maybe come with the house.
So the solar is extra. That's probably the most expensive add-on. All the batteries and panels do come at an extra cost. The goal is to make, the whole electrical system to be solar ready, so that people can add those things at a later point if they would like to. And for the most part, everything that you'd see in, the photographs we have online, most of those things are included in the build, with the exception of some of the appliances. People have a lot of different preferences on what kind of appliances: gas, electric, dishwasher, no stove, whatever it might be. So that is customizable to an extent. Like if they're going to be off grid or on grid, that would change those selections. So we've tried to include everything with the base model that we see as being like a common choice for everybody. Everybody's going to want these things. And then as we've gotten more feedback, we're finding, people want to put in their own dresser, or they want to put in, like the different appliances or whatever it might be. Then those things we'll have as options and add-ons.
Got it. Is the trailer itself aluminum as well?
It is, yes. So the trailer is aluminum. We are a licensed trailer manufacturer in the state of California. So it is custom designed aluminum frame. The only parts that are steel are the tongue of the trailer and the axles. So those parts have to be steel to keep the weight distribution proper, and also for just all of the pressure that it gets constantly when it's on the road.
Yeah.
But what's really cool about our trailer is that we've created to be pretty tall. So the thickness and height is probably bigger than you've seen before. And that's because we are containing all of our water tanks and batteries within the trailers. They all have their own components, which is great for storage purposes, but also having that added weight at the bottom makes the driving more stable, and in windy conditions, even when you're parked, having that additional weight in the trailer is really great for stability.
Yeah. And also just the fact that the trailer itself is the floor or is the frame for the floor, and you're not kind of building another thing on top of that. Like that is it.
Yes. Yeah. It also contributes to the modularity of everything. So the way we have all the beams and posts bolted into the trailer, it all is, it wouldn't have been possible with, a trailer we just bought off the shelf.
Right. Or the house would be a whole lot heavier, because I would imagine that's a significant weight savings going from a steel to an aluminum trailer.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And then the rest of the framing is also aluminum. So that's a great thing about aluminum as well, is that it doesn't rot or mold like wood might. And it also doesn't rust. So steel does rust, especially if it's painted.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas aluminum just does not have that property.
Yeah, no, aluminum makes a lot of sense for tiny house trailers. And I know, I don't know off the top of my head, I know there's like one company that's making, aluminum tiny house trailers that people can buy to build on. And they do save a significant amount of weight, but aluminum is expensive as a material.
Yeah, it's from what I know, and I'm not the main person handling our supply chain, it's not too different from steel, but it's the manipulation of it that takes more time, and you have to have a specialty welder to do it. So like the process of working with it is more extensive, which I think probably adds to the final cost when it's being sold as like a finished product.
Yeah.
And the other component of it is that it can expand and contract slightly with changing temperatures. So when designing the rest of the house, you have to keep in mind that there's a very slight amount of expansion. And so all the components need to be able to kind of account for that. So another engineering consideration.
Nice. Who would you say the Wilderwise house is like? Who's your kind of ideal customer? What's your customer avatar that you have in mind when you designed a tiny house that was modular in this way and that could, raise up and lower down?
Yeah, I think that there's like a few different like main customer groups. I would say the first is kind of young professionals, people that maybe are working remotely now, especially after or amidst the COVID pandemic, where people are working from home and maybe want to have the ability to live in multiple different places throughout the year, or at least have the ability to bring their home with them and have, that level of flexibility. I think that this is a great like first home. So it's really geared towards the, next generation of home buyers, ones that are looking for something lower cost. They don't want to be, tied down by a huge mortgage payment, and want the flexibility of just being able to take their home with them and having it have a lot of high-tech features that fit the lifestyle that they already are living. I mean, we've seen the, growing of the like van life movement and the RV life movement, and that's become a huge popular lifestyle change for people, say in their 20s and 30s. And although a tiny house like this one is not as mobile as a van would be, it definitely still is on that same kind of trajectory where people don't want to be stuck in one place. They want to have the ability to, go where life takes them, and especially for younger people. The other category I would say is like retirees. And that's, I think, probably the biggest group of people that are buying tiny houses. So people who a lot of times are, want to live smaller, want to be closer to their family. We have a design in the works for actually a lifting platform, like a little one-person elevator that goes in the place of the stairwell. So that would be geared towards people who wouldn't be able to go up and down stairs as regularly. And then, of course, there is the customer who already has a property and they are, wanting to put something in their backyard, but maybe don't have an accessible backyard. So that's where that modularity comes into play. I have talked to people that, they have a narrow access road to their backyard, but then they can't get a tiny home craned in because it's on a slope or the spot that they want to put it is really far back. You can't get a vehicle back there. So it's the goal is to really use untapped real estate in those spaces. And there's a lot of people, like especially in California, where they have passed ADU laws allowing tiny homes on wheels. People that have their mortgages are so expensive. The state itself, just the cost of living is so high that people need additional source of income. And so this is really geared towards helping out those people, providing more housing for those that are being pushed out of their apartments, as well as landowners that need a little extra income to pay off their mortgage and to afford to live in such an expensive state.
Yeah. What kind of financing options are there?
So we are working on financing options. I have a couple lenders in mind. We have a few more things that we kind of have to finalize before we can offer that to customers. So one of those things is setting up our additional facility in Tucson, which is what we're planning to do this year. But the two biggest tiny home lenders that I know of are Liberty Bank of Utah and 21st Century Mortgage in Tennessee, I believe. So we're in conversations with both of those and just have a couple more requirements that we're looking to fill in the next few months. At that point, we'll be able to offer financing, which is great because I have 20 some people on my wait list that I've put refundable deposits down that are wanting to purchase one, but they're waiting for the financing. So I think that once we get that settled, we'll really be able to, tap into a much larger market.
Yeah. How, what's the manufacture process like and how, what's your capacity right now and what's the plan for the next year or 2, 5?
Yeah. I actually just have been working on production scalability analysis with my team and seeing kind of at what point we can get to certain capacities. At this point, as some context, it took us about 6 months to build the first build that we did, which is where I'm sitting now. And it's taking about 3 months to do the next one. And then the next 6 or 7 that are on our build list currently are going to be closer to a month to a month and a half. And each time we build one, it'll get shorter and shorter. Our capacity in the production facility we currently have can go up to about 4 to 5 per month. So that's just a matter of having enough resources, being able to buy the inventory and have enough people involved. But the way that's kind of how we see it. So right now, about 1 month per build, eventually 4 to 5 builds per month. And then, of course, if we can expand into a much larger facility, the production is designed to be highly scalable. So we could be upwards of the point of even like 100 plus per month, just because that's from the very beginning, our goal was to create a home that could be eventually a home that's in serial production, because there is such a housing shortage. It's been this way for 10 plus years, where every single year there's less homes being built than people that need the homes. So having scalable production and being able to get to a point where we can be cranking out homes on the regular and installing them on properties is going to make a huge difference in the housing crisis that we face. I think in that time, in the time now we're building, say, 1 per month, up to the point where we're building, say, 50 per month. That'll take, of course, a few years. But that'll give enough time for the legislation to pass that allows these kinds of homes in more places, and for laws to be, zoning laws to change, and all of that's already happening. So I think we're kind of right at the right point in this, the tiny house industry's trajectory, where, in the next few years, it's going to be a lot easier to place these, and there's going to be more builders that can produce them faster, which means that more and more people will be in a better position to find housing that's affordable to them and that they love and that can empower them to live their best lives. So that's what we're going for.
Yeah, I've been really feeling like the financing piece is kind of the most important and missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of tiny homes to make them accessible to those who, currently can't afford housing.
Right.
And,
yes, that's a big component. And like I said, there's only 2 main ones that really do it as on a longer term basis. There's a bunch that do. It's like you have to pay it off in 5 years. The interest rates are really high, and people are looking to have more of like a 15 to 25 year loan.
Yeah.
I've talked to lenders, and it's a lot of figuring out the details, because at this point, the being on wheels and it being a full-time dwelling, those are like the two contrasting components in what tiny homes offer. And so it takes time for those lenders and financing companies to find a way to offer it. And, I guess to reduce their liability, I'm sure, is a big part of it too. But there's definitely a need there. So I think that when it becomes more obvious to the big players in the game that we're going to be seeing more lenders come in with new loan options. So
yeah. And what is, for somebody just paying cash or financing outside, what's the starting price of one of the homes?
So normally starting at 85,000, I think most people will be paying between like 85 and 100,000 for their home, unless they're doing a full off-grid setup, which can be 20 to 30 on top of that.
Yeah.
With solar and batteries and all of that. But we also currently have a couple spots left at a lower price point, a promotion we're doing for our first 10 customers starting at 75,000. So we sold 8 of those spots, and I'm in conversation with a couple more people to fill the other 2.
Nice. And those are pay in full spots?
Yes. Yeah. It's a cash paid builds, either pay in full or do 50% and then in increments until the build's completed.
Got it.
So it's a reward for being our first customer. They're going to be very integral to, our options that are available and, what colors we're going to offer and just, supporting us and giving feedback. And so those people we're calling them our early adopter, early innovators of this new product that'll kind of help get everything off the ground and gain more exposure to the technology that we're building out and offering to.
Nice. What other kind of interesting technology are you incorporating in the house that you don't see in other tiny homes?
Yeah, so I guess I already mentioned the main things: the lifting roof,
yep,
the little person elevator. We're looking to also incorporate slide outs as an option because the walls are modular. They can be taken off, and a modular slide out can be added instead. We're also looking at making the home just as like a total smart home. So having everything integrated into a control panel where you can manage the levels of the tanks and your battery storage, as well as controlling, the blinds and the lights and, the different electrical components of the house. You'd have the ability to really live in a smart home, high-tech space that can really suit all of your needs and make life just as convenient as possible. A lot of what we're doing is convenient living solutions. Another of our big kind of visions as well is to not only be building the homes themselves, but to support the entire system and process of moving into one of these spaces. And a lot of times that means finding the land as well and being able to hook up to the land, monitor your utilities and your energy usage, water usage. So we're looking at building kind of a second piece of hardware, which would be like a smart meter that can track utility usage. So say if you're parking on someone else's property and you're using their land, our platform and hardware would manage rent payments as well as your utility usage so that it can be kind of a more seamless process for people. We would also include the ability for people with tiny homes to find land to put it on hosts, per se, people that, can provide all of the necessary hookups as well as the land available, and to kind of make that process as seamless as possible. It's kind of going towards both residential locations, but also expanding out to more community-based, land sharing opportunities for people, which I know a lot of people really want. They want to live in tiny house communities, and right now there's just not enough of them. Yeah. So we're looking to partner with other companies. I already have some contacts that I'm working with that actually buying the land, setting up the communities, building the homes, and having everything kind of be convenient, seamless process for people to find housing and to be, really loving where they're living. So that's really important to us.
Awesome. One thing that I like to ask all my guests is, are there 2 or 3 like books or resources, people, YouTube channels, really anything open-ended, just recommendations for our listeners for anything that's inspired you or helped teach you in this process?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big advocate. You've probably already gotten this answer, but the folks over at the Tiny House Expedition, they did a video of us, and they post a lot of really great videos that offer great resources for learning about going tiny. My good friend, Lindsay Wood, she has a tiny academy that she's starting out that helps people to find the land, understand the build process, what to look for, that kind of thing. So we're always collaborating and helping one another, but she is a wealth of knowledge about, that whole process. So I always go to her and then the folks over at Tiny House Expedition.
Awesome. Well, Arya Mazanek, go ahead. Yeah.
I just remember one other thing, just the Tiny House Industry Association as well. They have tons of resources and they're really the ones that are advocating for tiny living.
Yeah.
So I would definitely go to them as well. And I just want to add one other quick thing. Something else that's really unique, I know you had asked this before, is that myself and my partner, my boyfriend, we have been traveling in the home for the last month and we'll be doing so for another 2 months. So what's really cool about our company is that we're not only builders of this new product, but we're also living in the home and utilizing it, taking it to extreme lengths to test its capabilities, providing feedback to our engineers and build team, as well as taking feedback from customers so that we can really improve the product to the greatest extent. We can also show people kind of what's possible with this lifestyle, as well as being able to share insights, like really insider insights on what it's like to live in this kind of space, what it's like to travel with it, what kind of car we need to tow it, what it's like being on the road and living in a small space with another person.
Yeah.
So we can offer not only like the lifestyle feedback, but also the kind of technical feedback. And I think that having that really well-rounded insight is really, really valuable to customers. So I've been able to connect with people on so many different levels as not only a builder, but also as a tiny house dweller. And that kind of adds to what makes our offering and our company so special.
How many of them are in existence at this point?
There is one in existence. I'm currently residing in it, and we are in the process of building number 2, which is going to a customer in Arizona. And then we are in the process of buying all the materials for number 2 and 3.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where can, this podcast episode will kind of live on forever, but if anyone ends up listening during the summer of 2022, where can they go and see one in person? Are you doing any festivals or things coming up?
Yeah. So we just finished 2 events in Colorado. We are headed to a show in Sacramento in August. It's a Tri-County Home and Garden show, I believe. And then also Tiny Fest in September, which is in Pleasanton. So those are our 2 shows that are on our schedule. We might add a couple shows in the winter time, but it's kind of up in the air depending on how everything else is going. But generally, we're available for private tours in Tucson, Arizona, and also sometimes in Southern California, which are our 2 kind of home bases where we have the house.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, now we'll wrap up. So Arya Mazanek, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. This was really interesting. I loved learning about Wilderwise homes.
The Wilder homes.
The Wilder homes.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a pleasure talking to you, Ethan, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much to Arya Mazanek from Wilderwise Tiny Homes for being a guest on the show today. You can find the show notes, including a complete transcript, video tour of the Wilderwise home, and lots of photos over at thetinyhouse.net/224. Again, that's thetinyhouse.net/224. Well, that's all for this week. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and I'll be back next week with another episode of the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast.